Hey, what's up, everyone? I think we are live on LinkedIn. I am going to show you the CEO therapist in 1 second. Get ready. I'm still learning all this, by the way. Carl's like, dude, just hit like these three buttons, Mark, and don't screw it up.
That's all.
So I got the intro. It's funny with a live stream too. I'm just gonna leave all this in the podcast, but from prison to PhD, we're getting ready to be with my man Adam, the CEO therapist. Let me see if I can get this intro to work real quick.
Want to rise above what holds you back? These are the stories of those fighting that battle. It might also be the story of you. I'm Dan Waldschmidt, author of Edgy Conversations and strategist of billion-dollar companies all over the world. This is Mark Minard, author of The Story of You, the guy who knows a thing or two about never giving up. You're listening to Elevating Beyond. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Elevating Beyond with a two-word mission statement: change lives. And let me flip this camera. Ba-boom. Give him a little round of applause. Everyone. That's all I need to do for the rest of the show. Everyone that was watching is like, what the hell is this? They just got off. So look, I'm sitting here with my man, Adam Downs, from being in prison to having his PhD and so much more, working with high performance CEOs, not only just business owners, but colleges like all around the US, and the importance of mental health and leadership in business and in life. So we're just going to break it down. So how are you doing, my
Absolutely.
man?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's been great to spend some time. Thank you for
Man,
flying here
absolutely.
to Florida.
Hey, I got on the plane this morning. It was 39 degrees. I got off. It was 81.
That's cold. That's 39 for
Yeah.
Alabama is cold this
Yeah.
time.
It was super cold.
So when you first sent that, I was thinking you were in Michigan still, because I'm like, okay, that seems right. But
Yeah.
so there's a cold front coming
It
through.
sounds like Michigan. It felt like
Right.
Michigan.
I wonder how cold it is there right now.
I don't know. I was talking to Carl the other day, and he was like, well, I was like, how are you doing, buddy? He's like, well, you know where I live. You know what month it is. And I was like, oh, yeah. My bad.
Starts getting gray.
I was like, has it arrived?
It's coming around the corner.
He's like, it's coming. I was like, oh, sorry. Well, it's 80
Winter is
degrees.
coming.
I've been playing outside all day.
Yeah, it's like rare to get snow like down where you are. If it does, it's like the city shuts down and stuff, right?
Yeah. No. If they say it's gonna snow, you can't get a loaf of bread. It'd be like down here. I mean, if someone says it's gonna snow, y'all freak out.
I couldn't. Yeah, no, it's like 50. It'll get 50, and people are in like full
Like
snow
parkas.
jackets and boots, and I'm like, really? Like, you
Yeah.
really bought that to wear it one time a year?
Or once every couple of years.
Yeah. It's like 50 at night, but
Yeah.
I'll be out and they'll be like in the full Uggs, and I'm like, yeah, you just want to wear that.
Well, and
for
it goes
fashion.
the other way too. Like when I first moved to Michigan for graduate school at Michigan State, like I was like, I did my undergrad at Texas Tech.
Okay.
So I went from Texas to Michigan, and I was like, oh man, I'm ready for the cold. Like I love the cold, but I'd never experienced like cold. And that first like real winter day hit, and that first like real winter snow came.
Like the needles.
Like I literally like was like northface.com Mount Everest edition. Like order now.
Yeah, you're right, because when I was in Colorado, the sun came out a lot more there. It would get cold, but we'd have a day and it'd be like 50, and I'd be like, oh, cool, I can wear shorts and t-shirt.
Flip-flops.
Yeah, I'd be jogging. Like I can get to some tan today, but you get used to that there. Like if someone's coming from Florida to there, they're all bundled up.
Oh yeah, I've got like two of my best friends live in like St. Pete. And like they come up, like we went somewhere. I can't remember where we went. We were in Atlanta last April, and it was like 60 something degrees, and they were like zipping up there. I was like, are you serious? Like it's 63. They're like, I'm freezing. That's so different.
I know, it's crazy.
That's Florida.
Yeah, you get used to it, and they're always like, "Oh, you're from there. I want to go to the snow." I'm like, "Yeah, like visit the snow, cool. Like
Yeah.
visit it."
Don't live in it.
Some people love it. That's great, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I like it when it's warm.
I'll visit it, ski on it, and
Right.
then get out of there.
um, so Adam, like we can go if you want to just even start talking about. Listen, for all business owners, leaders at every level, we're just getting into the real tactics of leadership and the mental health part of it, like
Yeah.
without all the fluff and crap. Like, how do you deal with really firing someone? Why, when, and why do you actually need to fire someone? How do you actually have those uncomfortable conversations that you have to have to resolve conflict in a healthy way? And
Absolutely.
and then you jumping on that, Adam, you're able to break it down to a whole other level of how do I bring in the mental health actually teaching into it
Yeah.
and getting out of your own head, and
Yeah.
how you've had success. Go
Well,
ahead.
I mean, really, it's well people run well businesses. Sick people run sick businesses. And if we don't take care of ourselves from a mental wellness perspective, like we are not going to be able to lead others. Like there's just no way possible. And we're going to hit plateaus in our businesses, in the way that we run our businesses, the way that we run our teams, the way that we build our teams. If we have areas in our life that we're not taking care of. And if we're leaving those, if we're neglecting certain areas, certain relationships, certain principles, certain things that we have to do to take care of our own personal mental wellness, if we're neglecting those areas in our life, like I assure you, we do not live in vacuums, and it will directly impact all the areas in our business, which then turns around and creates more stress and anxiety.
Mm.
So it just becomes like a vicious cycle.
And I think, speaking of stress and anxiety, it's such a good thing to talk about with everything that's happened over the past few years, and letting people know that they're not alone. And you and I were talking about how most of us business owners were wired differently, which is a blessing because you got to see things differently. But that also comes with the overthinking, the anxiety, the ADD, a lot depression,
Yeah,
highs and lows can be sporadic, which can be great strengths. Like you need that to build stuff, but also
100%.
like depression can coincide a lot with creativity, I've
Yeah,
learned. But on the flip side, you can really feel like all alone because you feel like I don't have other people that can relate to these problems,
yeah,
because it's like, well, they'll look at you and be like, yeah, well, how could you be depressed? You've built this $500 million business,
yeah.
but so people could be, oh, I can't share this with anyone else. And then they can go more inward. And sometimes it can block someone. I mean, if we even just want to start on, I know you have a list
Yeah,
of some.
but well, I mean, what you're talking about is isolation,
Right.
right? I mean, think about it. Like, even if you're talking about like the one percenters, right? Think about what that even means. That means 99% of the rest of the population is in a different category than you are,
Yeah.
right? And so that can become very isolating,
Yeah.
which can make you feel very alone. Like the thing about entrepreneurship is the the superpowers that exist in people that are successful entrepreneurs are the same superpowers can be vulnerabilities,
Right.
and I mean, I think there's a study published recently out of University of California, Berkeley, like 72% of all entrepreneurs, 72% of all entrepreneurs have mental health concerns. Like that's a
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but still, it's like what other profession has that kind of whopping number?
When on the surface, they're looked at as
Oh, that's
there's
that.
no way they could have. They're looking at it as, oh, these people are killing
Oh,
it.
that's
They're
entrepreneur.
externally
Oh, that's that life.
right. And I would even say beyond that, not even just that, like any high performance, because I've learned that from a lot of the athletes or NBA players and stuff I've had on my show that have made it,
Absolutely.
that work really, really hard stuff, but they don't there's so much responsibility, and you feel like if I
Well, I look
don't
at
have anyone to relate
I
to,
look at professional athletes as a form of entrepreneur,
Right.
right? Like they're they are their own business.
That's very true. That's
know,
very true.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they invest in their business, they manage, they have a team, they manage that manages them, that helps them grow. They're constantly trying to hone their craft to create a great product so
Right.
that they can win. But
Right.
it's also about like that next contract. I mean, let's be honest, like they all want to win rings and championships, but they also want that next contract
Right.
and they want to have that longevity. Just like you build a business and you want to, a lot of people, you build a business so that eventually you can sell it, expand, acquire others, right? It's called growth.
Right. Right.
Like that's what all these athletes are trying to do. They're trying to grow. And so if you play for the Spurs and you run your contract's running out, you either renegotiate and expand your business, which is your skill set, or you take your talents elsewhere,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
which is somebody else comes in and acquires your business. Right? It's the same. So I look at like that as an entrepreneurial spirit makes the best professional athlete.
And they're still dealing with the same inner struggles that all,
Oh,
so again, not healthy there.
absolutely.
You're not going to see it on the court, and so it takes that intentional
100%.
working with the best of the best. We know hire people like you and stuff behind the scenes, like Kobe Bryant did. I'm drawing a blank on my dude. He has a great book out, Tim Grover. I don't know if
Yes. Yeah.
okay. Tim, I'm actually planning on having you on the show. I've been hitting you up. Time to get you here. But like Tim, behind the scenes, Michael Jordan hired him, Kobe Bryant, and he was like the go-to guy of where the best of the best went to for all levels of physical, but also mental.
Well, right. I mean, do you think Kobe's jump shot ever fell off? I mean, do you think his technique ever fell off? No. Like he was a machine, but he had to have his mind sharp.
Right,
And he had to stay hyper focused and healthy from a mental standpoint in order to continue to excel.
Absolutely. And when he was going through his stuff with his marriage, I remember them being behind this, getting the help behind the scenes because didn't want that in the spotlight, to learn how do I put that down so I can be fully focused on the court, because it did start affecting his game.
Yeah.
But that's my point. He went to this dude that was the best of the best, that worked with the best of the best, that understood those levels, which is like what you do. And I don't want to forget, we'll get to it in a little while, so stay tuned. I do want to hit back on overcome like what got you in prison and stuff.
Sure.
And overcoming that. But if we want to start with something and kind of start, going through, we have
Yeah.
this list of from 16 reasons why your business sucks, and also from correct, what's the full name that you work with your wellness program? The name is
It's called What Good Looks Like.
What Good Looks Like.
Yeah.
And how like these principles like really come together. I hate
Yeah.
when you hear words like principles, it sounds generic and stuff, but
yeah.
we're talking real. That's why it's
Yeah.
like why you suck, why your business sucks, but how to get freaking awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's about, and it's, and here's the thing. I think a lot of times we overcomplicate things. I mean, you, in your book, 16 reasons why your business suck, you lay out like 16 great reasons that if they take certain steps and get better at these areas, then they'll have a very successful business. Well, I basically said, let's look at those 16 things, right? And
Right.
so this is when you and I started talking a month or so ago. It's like, hey, these 16 things that you hit on actually have mental health and mental wellness components to every single one of them. And the question is, if you're willing to buy a book, read a book, and live by certain principles to grow your business, why in the world aren't you doing that for your personal life?
Because it all intertwines.
It all intertwines. You cannot be in a place where you're struggling mentally and grow your business or even maintain it.
Yeah.
Like they are completely connected. And so every area that you talk about in your book, like there is a way to apply those same things to your own life so that you're growing with your company. Actually, your company grows with you.
That's right. That's like it's like my man John Maxwell says like it's the lid effect, and he's like you as the owner and stuff, you're the lid. So if you only elevate yourself, your growth, your leadership, your mental health, your to this level, you're the lid because it stops and ends and starts with you. So if
Absolutely.
you don't take yourself to that level, then your company, your organization, your team can't go to that next level. So what do we got on here first? So what do you have?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, do you want to start and go down like all 16?
Whatever we want. Everyone knows from Elevating Beyond, we just do organically whatever works.
Well, I mean, so let's pick up where I'll hop around here.
Okay.
So let's pick up like where we left off, right?
Too much listy like paralyzes me. It's like it's got to have some organic flow.
So let's just pick up where we left off. Like, you talk about like in your book, like you suck at self, right?
Yeah.
Which is great. But here's what we have to understand. As entrepreneurs, as businessmen and women, we have struggles with ourself. We have struggles with self-care. We have struggle with putting self first. Like I said, 72% of entrepreneurs have mental health concerns. Founders are 2 times more likely to suffer from depression. 6 times more likely to have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD.
Which ADHD has already in its own a high correlation with depression.
Yes, and anxiety.
You just diagnosed me in a nutshell because ADHD, anxiety, and depression have all been. But to be honest, I would say when I get people to be really real from my show and getting to know them, most real entrepreneurs I met have ADHD, anxiety, and have battled with depression.
Yeah.
Because ADHD goes a lot with creativity.
100%. And thinking outside the box and finding solutions outside the box.
Right, which is why we struggle.
You have to have in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But it's also why we struggle. So I'm ADHD as well. And it's why I struggled in school.
Me too. Exactly.
I struggled in school and still somehow managed to get a PhD.
Is it that doesn't that say a lot about there's a whole other level of the grit and the determination, and when you really have a why.
Well, I was about to say, it's got a lot to say with why too.
Yeah. So when people are struggling, so with the ADHD, with the depression, like where do you start with someone like when they're working with you and it's like a high caliber like CEO that's owned multiple companies, sold them for 30 million plus, and they're and you're getting them to like break it down. I know there's deeper levels in sessions and stuff, obviously, but something that I thought was really interesting, and I'm just trying to think, to everyone that's, if you're watching the live stream, what's up, when you're going to be listening to this on all the platforms that are going through anything, is like, you said, oh man, what did you say? That's my ADD just took me on a tangent. I was right about to finish that thought. Man, you mentioned something about how so many entrepreneurs that struggle with the depression. Oh, dude, it was so spot on what you said before. But sorry, I'm
It'll
my
come back to you in a
ADD
minute.
is I have to see something shiny and it will bring it back. Man, it was gonna be so beautiful and tie it all together. But like pulling that out of them, to let someone know where it connects. Like you're having this anxiety or this depression here that you don't
Well,
even know about, or maybe you don't want to admit it because you're. Oh, I remember what I was going to say.
okay.
Sorry.
I told you it'd come back.
All right. Um, One thing you mentioned is you love working because we haven't shared your whole backstory at all. Speaking of ADD, it's funny that I have a show, and thank you all millions. I have no idea. I've got all these listeners over the years because I'm like bouncing all over. But in part of your backstory, from being in prison to then getting a PhD and having ADHD and getting through that, now I just lost my thought again. God, dude, this might be one of the worst times where I've lost it twice in a row. So sorry, start
That's
talking again, then I'll
that's good.
interrupt you.
Well, we were talking about okay, so like with depression, one of the things that's hard for a highly successful person, or especially like an entrepreneur, to admit or to even realize or to accept that they have depression in their life, because it's hard for them to like understand why it's happening.
So, I got it, and I'm writing a note right now while you're talking. Everyone live, you rock. There's a clip. We don't normally edit. I just leave it all in. I probably will, but I could pull all that out. But I just remembered now for a third time, so let me say it before my freaking head goes to outer
Forget
space.
it again.
You mentioned you like working with entrepreneurs and high performance people more than when you ran like the full counseling stuff because they want to fix the problem quicker and they're at a higher level of self-awareness to where, no offense to anyone that needs the other level of help,
Absolutely
but you
not.
have a specialist in wanting to work with people, and you've noticed this with high performance people, with like business owners, that they're like, dude, I want to throw the cards on the table, and they're looking at it as like, this is another obstacle, I want to overcome it. And you like that because you're like,
Right.
we don't have to spend 6 months making them like sugarcoating it all and walking on eggshells
Right.
to just like be like, dude, you suck here because like I love you, but this is a problem. So
Right.
let's and they're like, okay, sweet, let's fix it.
Well, and often they look at
That's
it.
interesting to me.
They look at it from a very like solution, like a solution hunting approach. Right. So it's like, okay, these are problems that are preventing me from finding success. I'm not really sure I know exactly what the problems are or how to make that work, but like I'm investing in this, and so I'm going to do the work. And they're pretty driven people. And that's what I like about it. Like, when working with, high functioning entrepreneurs, businessmen, businesswomen, like they are relentless in their pursuit to find success.
So you're able to see, let me introduce Shadow to the show.
Yes. This is my new friend. Shadow and I have bonded.
We bought Shadow in the studio. So he's a natural. He's making his premiere. So that's funny, but I love that because you really found your passion in wanting to help people that are and it's fueling you too, by the way, because
100%.
you're motivated by this, you're interested in it, and you're an entrepreneur,
Right.
so you can relate to what you're teaching. So
100%.
do you find that I think that's such an important thing when we talk about like what authenticity really means, because it's thrown around so much, is some of it is having like the experience and the respect that people can listen and take advice and know, not only that you have your PhD, but also that you're an entrepreneur and you've had your own have your own businesses,
Hmm.
and you're not just talking from theories. So they're able to
Right.
probably connect with you at another level and be like, I know Adam's teaching me this because it works. And like, he's not just blowing smoke up his
No,
butt, like
it's
he's
the
living
it's
this.
the life I live. And look, I mean, entrepreneurs and just highly driven people are cut from a different cloth. And I've find that when I was doing a lot of my own personal mental health work, like I needed a coach, a therapist
Mm,
that could freaking go. You know what I mean? Like I needed someone that had that go, like someone that had that, that had that dog, like someone that was
right.
like let's go, like let's get this done, like let's find the solution, let's move whatever we got to move, do whatever we got to do, but let's get well.
I wonder how many people have given up this I'm making me this is why I like the organic conversations, because makes you think. I wonder how many people have given up that are at owners, CEOs and stuff
Everyone that I coach.
on thinking no one gets me, so I might as well stop. Or,
Yeah.
dude, with all due respect, I've gotten some people that have gone to help me and they're like, I'm like, dude, everything you just told me, I need to like get that out of my freaking head, because you just have me leaving here like thinking I should be a victim and have a victim mentality. And I'm not looking for what's freaking trending right now on the stupid news or something. I don't need to be freaking coddled. I want to be, no, I'm not a victim. How do I kick this freaking thing in the teeth and get through it? And I'm not
100%.
denying it that it's fake, but I know people personally that still battle through stuff. And some of the best therapy has been from us talking with each other.
Yeah.
And,
Well, and look, just because you've been victimized doesn't mean you're a victim.
well, I know.
People have experienced trauma
Of
and
course.
thing that happened to them, but the only way through that is to get out of that victim mentality
Exactly.
and to find that eternal strength that is inside of us that allows us to still be talking to each other.
Right. Right. So,
So yeah, but everybody, like I think that a lot. So I think it's two things. I think that a lot of times these people have gone and seen, maybe some therapist or whatever, and it wasn't clicking, and so they're just like, this just isn't for me. I'm not a therapy guy, right?
so they just give up like
So they're just
therapy.
like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. I'll just figure it out on my own. Or they never even seek it out because they're like, I don't have time to go therapist shopping.
Right. Which is true. Which
Like, I don't have time to go see this person, sit in a waiting room, fill out some paperwork,
so
go in there
true.
and sit for 50 minutes, but get billed for an hour, and then come back next week and do the same thing over again. And then I do that 2 or 3 times. I lay all this stuff out. I'm getting no return on my investment, even though it's only been 2 or 3 sessions. That's why it's important for me when I work with a client. Like I tell them on day one, first of all, my goal is for you to monetize what we do. Like I plan for you to, because of the work that we do together, I plan for you to make more money.
The entrepreneur, the CEO therapist.
Yeah.
Like, dude, because you're hitting them right with a real, like,
Yeah.
oh, right away. It's not, dude, people have lost me when it's like fill out 500 forms. Dude, there's places I've been ready to buy something, and then it's like, fill out this thing for your
Yeah, I'm
car.
good.
And I'm like,
I'm
they've
good.
already lost me. Okay, I don't have. You'll go in, like, fill out these 5,000 questions on your person, like halfway through. I'm like, dude, anytime I could be in whatever mood and answer this and get a different, like, can we just get to
Yeah.
the freaking point? Or,
Yeah.
like you said, time.
Yeah, and that's the thing is though, a lot of times, these high, performing people will go and they'll go this what I call the traditional therapy route, which therapy really hasn't changed that much in 100 years. Like you go sit down and talk to somebody for 50 minutes, you get charged for an hour, and then you leave, and then you just everything that happens during the week, you just hold on to that because you'll go back in a week and talk about it. So then you spend the next session half of it talking about all the stuff that happened over the last week, and then the rest of the session you talk about actually what you need to be talking about. So you're really only getting about half of a hour. So you're getting 25 minutes, so, and then they're like,
why
I
is
can't
that?
keep doing this.
And this is bringing it back because you got your PhD, you worked in the field.
Absolutely. I had a private practice. I mean, I did that model for
So
years.
So anyone that's going to start writing, and I know all you wonderful people aren't, because you're high performance rock stars, hate only comes from above, hate never comes from above, from someone at a higher. I've never met a hater that was doing better than me, just to get that out there. But there's hate that can be criticism that can be out of love, that can be, oh crap, I do need to get better at this too.
Yeah.
It depends on where it is. But what you saw was in the practice and everything. So if people are watching, yeah, how could he knock there? Blah, blah. Dude,
I'm not.
but you're not knocking it. But you're also saying, I worked in this. I had a private practice. I'm not, but I'm telling you, I created my whole other own business because I didn't like what I was seeing there. We weren't getting the results, and wasn't there all this drama and politics and stuff going on?
Well, okay, so there's a couple things.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking all therapy, but you get what I'm saying. I'm just being 100%. Real.
So that model, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, it works. Like, I helped a lot of people, and I was very successful in my practice. But what I found was a lot of the people that I ran into that didn't have as much success with under that model was your high performers. Now that model, we know who that model worked really well with? The business owner's son.
So it's almost like
there's levels to this.
It's almost like there's levels, and that model is great to a certain level, but as you have different levels where much is given, much is required, when you're higher performance, taking on more, this level that helps these people at this level isn't going to help this person at that. It's like with Dreamshine. Everyone's not the freaking same. It drives me crazy.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing, is you have to tailor your program to your client. It's not one side. Listen, when I was in private practice, and listen, I had 25, 30 clients a week. We met for an hour. It was great. Like, I was successful. They got better. It was booming. Like, everything worked really well. But the problem is I worked with a lot of successful, affluent people. And it worked. I mean, like, I had a client that would, because he didn't want to sit in Atlanta traffic, he would helicopter his son in to see me. I mean, we're talking high performers here.
Right.
But the problem is the dad often didn't have time to fit into that model
when he needed to be.
Right. So we'd have a family session scheduled, and he could make time for the family session, but I'd be like, hey, Dad, let's just me and you get a one-on-one in. And he would be like, oh, this was all like before Zoom and stuff, right?
Right.
So basically what I've figured out is that when working with the clients that I work with now, we may do an hour session, once a week. We may do 2 hours once a week, or we may do 3 15 minutes a week.
Right.
Like, it just depends on what they need, when, where, why, and how. And then we tailor it to work with what's going on in their lives, and what are they working on. Right? Like, they may be working on something where they need to let it breathe. Like, I give them an assignment. This is something you need to be working on, and we need to let that marinate. I don't want to talk to you again for a week, because I need you to, like, marinate in this. Now, you can hit me up, because, like, the way I do it now, I don't charge by the hour. Right? Like, I do more of a concierge type service. So I'm available 24/7. We can have phone calls, text messages, Zoom calls, whatever. We do have one, like, legitimate session a week at minimum.
Right.
But the rest of it's kind of like just an ongoing coaching relationship. But the thing is, if I've given them something and they need to be working on it and letting that marinate, I need to give them time to let that breathe so that they can come back and process. Like, I just gave a client, like, we really hit on something that was hardcore that I think is a real key issue for this guy. And, like, I gave him I ordered him a book. I got a book sent to him. And I was like, yo, I need you to read this and then be ready to talk about it.
Mm.
And like, I can't just, now I was like, now you know what it is. Like, as you're reading it, you can text me, hit me up, like call me, whatever. But like in a week, I'm going to give you a week to read it. It's not a big book. I'm going to give you a week to read it, and then we're going to dive in. Because this right here is next level for you.
So so for everyone listening and watching that's maybe going through something, what is something that you can give, like maybe they're struggling, like you mentioned, what was like when you're dealing with your own inner dialogue or like over
Like the
worrying.
thought log.
Yeah, because I know everyone watching and listening, I think that is such a great, from how you describe it to me, like a tool, like when you were, we go through it. We have, by the way, I hate when people are like, oh, you should never have anxiety. Just learn to let it all go. And I meditation, breathing, all that's great. But dude, some people I'm like, you should have more anxiety. Like you're too laid back and it's making you mediocre.
Absolutely. I mean,
And how
imagine
can you
life
not
without
worry?
anxiety. Have you seen The Big Lebowski?
Well, yeah,
Like we would just all be the dude.
that's one of my favorite movies. My dad and I love that movie. Oh, we would. That is so true.
Like
and
the dude has no anxiety. And is that really who you want to be in your life? Like, do you want to be the dude? And like, if you want to be the dude, then fine. Like, figure out how to do that. But it's completely unrealistic. Anxiety serves a great purpose in our life. Like, we need anxiety.
No one talks about this though. Like they
Yeah.
all just say, "Oh, I have anxiety. I should only medicate it and eradicate it and totally get." Now,
Right, which
you don't
medication
wanna
just,
get
just
through it.
by the just for point of reference, medication does absolutely nothing for anxiety. And there's been two 30,
Really?
yeah, there's been two $30+ million studies to prove it.
Wow.
So
Serious.
yeah, so they did like a $32 million study to look at the effect of benzodiazepines on generalized anxiety disorder, and it showed that it had absolutely no effect at all on the generalized anxiety disorder. So the pharmaceutical companies were like, well, wait
in
a
the
minute.
short term,
Period.
what?
It did not affect the disorder, the generalized anxiety disorder.
Okay.
So the pharmaceutical companies said, well, hold on, let us do this. So they funded another study, $30+ million, came out with the exact same results. They have no effect on the generalized anxiety disorder. All they do is mask the symptoms.
And there's,
Because think about the symptoms of anxiety, right? Like make your heart beat faster, make your breath beat faster, make your hand, make you fidgety, nervous, right?
Right.
Which is all that really is like an escalation in your central nervous system. Well,
adrenaline.
Right. So what benzodiazepines do, which is like Xanax, Valium, Klonopin, these are the medications they prescribe for anxiety,
right.
which were actually not developed for anxiety at all.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
They're sedative hypnotic. They're tranquilizers. They're anti-seizure medication. The reason these medications were developed were to stop someone from having a seizure. It's like someone who's in a seizure, you give them a dose of benzodiazepines and it stops the seizure, or you can do it as a preventative measure so that they don't have seizures. But what they found, a side effect, is it's what it does is
it calms you.
It goes to the central nervous system and slows everything down. So all of the symptoms, the physiological symptoms of anxiety, are masked by the pills. Temporarily. So the problem is what happens when the pill wears off?
Right. It comes back.
It's all right back.
Or it comes back at a higher magnitude because it's like a dam and the stuff doesn't just disappear that was blocked. It just...
Well, right. I mean, think about it from like a business perspective. If you're anxious because your business is not doing well, or things aren't getting done, or your team is not performing at the level that needs to be performing at, or you're not performing at the level you need to be performing at, and you've got all this anxiety around all of it, and you're not getting everything done. So you take some pills and you feel a little bit better.
But you don't take any action to fix the problem.
Right. Then the pill wears off, and then what's happened now? All the same things have happened. It's just some time has gone by.
And there's different levels of anxiety and panic. It's different when you're having say you're having that and then you work hard, you fix the financial problems, and you're still constantly having it and you're having panic attacks. We're not saying that's not a real thing,
Not at
like at
all.
a different level, and that shouldn't be treated as such accordingly. But
You just have to treat it appropriately, like treat it with what we know are evidence-based practices to treat anxiety disorders,
right.
like cognitive behavioral therapy.
And not all anxiety. The second people hear anxiety, they broad generalize it, which I hate, in a box is, oh, it's all the same. It's all a disorder, it's all bad. No, some anxiety is healthily telling you, like you just said, like you're procrastinating. You're you're putting off that uncomfortable conversation
Yeah,
that you need to have with that team member that's gossiping, or with your spouse
yeah,
about this financial issue.
yeah. So here's the funny thing about anxiety. Anxiety's so cunning. Um, so I had someone call me, a client call me, was uh, so I've had a relationship with this guy for a long time. Was not coaching him on a regular basis, but he knows my skill set and my area of focus and whatnot. And called me and was like, "Man, I've had some struggles with anxiety in the past. I've had panic attacks." And I was like, "Absolutely, this is a very high driven,
S-
very successful guy.
Someone you would look at and be like, "There's no way
There's
that
no
guy
way."
has." Which, by the way, all of you, I want you to understand what Adam's saying here. Most of us have this, so it's okay. Like,
Absolutely.
don't feel, because we get inward and we think, I can't. If I share this, I'm going to look weak. If I share this, I'm not going to be able to be a good leader because people are going to think this guy. You know what? I'm just being real
Yeah,
from what I've had in my
100%.
head. So
I can't let people see that there's something off or something wrong with me. It's a weakness. I'm broken. Or a lot of times, here's the thing too, like
I
to
hate
be a
that.
highly driven, highly successful, like entrepreneur or business person, like everybody that I've ever known in that world are incredible problem solvers.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's like the secret power to all success. Like no matter what you put in front of them, they can solve that problem.
Right.
But often with mental health problems, it feels like a problem that's unsolvable.
Oh, I've never heard. Oh man, you're counseling me right now. I've never heard that before, and that is
And
so freaking
that's
true.
so
Oh,
alien because the usually high performing people,
we'll research away. We'll
CEOs,
YouTube. We'll find a.
we'll find it, we'll figure it out, we'll find a way to get there, we'll find a way to get it done. But here's the problem, like for the average person walking around, having a problem that's unsolvable isn't as dangerous as it is for us.
Mm. Now, what do you mean? I get what you're saying, but break that down a little more. What do you mean it's not as dangerous? Because they're not as responsible for as many.
Well,
They're not
they're
taking
more
on.
likely to be like, man, I just don't really know how to do about this. Maybe I should like reach out for some help.
Oh, got
But you
it.
take those one percenters, you take those high performers, and we can't figure it out, and it feels unsolvable. We're more likely, in fact, we're 2 times more likely to have suicidal thoughts. We're
Mm.
2 times more likely to have psychiatric hospitalizations. We're 3 times more likely to suffer from substance abuse. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
Like that's why it's more dangerous for us.
And it's dangerous because you can suffer from that stuff and be a high performance person and still be successful.
Yeah.
It
Well,
can,
and
it
be
will affect
successful
you.
by like what?
Societies,
Yeah.
exactly, without knowing. So externally, people, they could commit suicide, and someone would be like, "How could they?" I never saw, because they don't know that this dude or woman's been internally battling that for like 35. They've actually fought one hell of a fight that people never even knew about.
Never knew. They were
Right?
they were rock stars. Like they
Right.
were true survivors. Like they just to
People,
make it as far as they did because
yeah.
they were just struggling.
Mm.
But like this dude calls me, right, and is like, I've struggled with this in the past. I've had panic attacks. Thought I was having a heart attack, but it was just a panic attack. I was fine. He's like,
And they
this
suck, by the way, when you're first having them.
absolutely. Well, it feels like a heart attack,
Yeah,
and it shows all the symptoms of a heart attack.
it does. It
Yeah.
does.
And um and he's like, man, it's back. Like I'm really struggling with this. Like I'm
Mm.
canceling meetings, I'm missing appointments. Like I haven't had a full-blown panic attack yet, but like I am not performing like I'm supposed to. And I was like, okay, bet this is what we're gonna do. And I sent him a chart that I have that says anxiety on the top, and then I'll send you a copy of it.
Okay.
It says anxiety on the top, and I said, whenever you start to feel anxiety, what you're gonna do is there's topic. You're gonna write down like exactly what's going on, like what's going on in your life at that moment, like in that exact moment. Like I'm standing in the grocery store. Okay,
Mm.
then you're going to rate that anxiety from a level of 0 to 10. 0 meaning I feel nothing, 10 meaning I'm about to call 911 because my heart's beating out of my chest. You're going to rate it 0 to 10. And then what you're going to do is you're going to write down where in your body are you feeling this anxiety? Is it in your throat? Is it in your head? Is it in your stomach? Is it in your butt? Like, where is it? Like, where are you feeling it? And I just want you to visualize that spot, because here's what everybody wants to do. Everybody starts to feel these anxious moments and then they try not to think about it.
Mm. I've
Right?
never heard it. No, dude, I've thought that I've studied this. I speak on it, just helping people from my own, but I've never thought about breaking that. Does it necessarily is matter where you're feeling it?
No,
Like physio, does that not?
doesn't matter at
So
all.
your point of getting them. So at first, okay, so how long are they writing
Okay.
this down for? Like a
Okay.
week?
So well, let me finish the table.
Okay.
So what's going on? What time is it? Rate it from 0 to 10. Where in your body are you feeling it? Focus on that area. So if you feel it in your stomach, I just want you to take time, breathe, think about your stomach, visualize it in your stomach, put all your energy and your focus on it, and say you rated it at an 8. As soon as it's a 4, write down what time it is. Because here's the thing, no one has ever died from anxiety. Your body will not allow anxiety to hurt you. We have natural chemicals that we release that brings anxiety down in our brain. So if you just sit with it, focus on where it is in your brain, in your body, breathe. When it cuts in half, when it's down to a 4, write down what time it is. And I said, okay, man, I want you to do this. I sent him the chart. I said, do this for 7 days. We're going to talk next week. So he did it for 7 days. Next week we talked, and I said, okay, let's do some math. And he's like, what's up? And I said, all right, when was the first time? It happened at 9:30 in the morning. It was an 8. By the time it was a 4, it was 9:45. So that was 15 minutes. Okay. So when's the next time? The next day at 2:00. Okay. At 2:05, it was in half. And we did and then so we actually added up all the time that he actually spent in anxiety. And over the course of a week, he spent about 28 minutes in anxiety. And I was like, out of all the time, like how many?
I know. I was just trying to think how many hours were in a week. I'm like, no
hold on.
way.
How many minutes are there? So there's 24 hours in a day times 60 minutes. It's 4 times 7. So there's 10,080 minutes in a week.
28.
28 of them, you were in anxiety. And he was like, holy. And I said, the rest of the time you spent worried about anxiety.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
You started canceling meetings. You started not going places. You started changing the way you behave and the way you run your life and the way you run your business because you were worried about anxiety. But anxiety only lives for 28 minutes over the course of a week. It changed his life. He's good. He's back 100%.
And I've done that. I almost dropped out of college I dropped speech class 3 times from it, and I
Yeah.
used to get bad after all my trouble in jail and then doing all the drugs and stuff, and then, like, basically being sober, not masking it
Yeah.
and dealing. I was having them all the time. I would, like, not go to some classes because I would start, or I would have a pre-panic thinking, like you said,
Yeah.
the night
Well, it's
before.
anticipatory.
And by the way, I let everyone know this. I've learned to battle through it tons, but it doesn't ever completely go away,
Right. No,
right?
it doesn't. I mean, look, it's like it's one of the most
It's
natural. It's like
part like,
breathing.
would
It's
you
part
like
of
we
life.
just said, you don't want it to completely go away because part of it equates to drive.
100%. You don't think
R
like the goats? Like you don't think Tom Brady, Michael Jordan? Like you imagine those guys without anxiety?
Right.
They just react different to it.
They've
Like they drive with it.
right. So, what about the guy that you're talking about that's having that what if he's feeling it right before a meeting? Or there's something that's,
Yeah.
like, right about to go into, and he's like, "Well, I don't have time to breathe and focus on."
Yeah.
What do you
But
suggest
you're
for
probably
people?
going to be 5 minutes.
Okay, so
You see
be
what I'm saying? It's not going to take long. And I mean,
I'm
you can
just
do one
thinking
of
of someone listening maybe that
right. Well,
hasn't
but I mean, what do you? I mean, I mean,
well, no,
pardon my French, but what if you had to shit? You
well,
know what I mean? I mean, like you
oh,
would,
yeah, okay, it gives
like
you the time.
you would step into the bathroom and go to the bathroom. You're not going to like, oh, I got to get into this meeting, but bubble guts. Like you're going to be hey, you're going to text somebody. I'm going to be 5 minutes late. I got to hit the restroom real quick.
Okay. No,
But
you're helping.
but like you
I'm
have time,
looking
like you have
someone
time to go like empty your bowels, but you don't have time to go like get your mind right. You see what I'm saying though?
No, I
Like it's about
do.
like a priority.
It is, and it's letting people also know, depending on the level, you don't know to, like, that knowing you can't die from it. Like, when I learned that years ago,
Yeah.
like, that helped me from being like, "Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna push through this."
You cannot die from it.
And also something else, what do you suggest to people that are in a meeting and they're overthinking or something, and they're feeling like, "Oh, what if everyone's noticing?" This is what I used to think, and dude, I wish I woulda had you to talk to back in the day, and I'm glad we're friends because now I'm
Now you
but
do.
but, in my younger years, like, before being a CEO, way younger, I remember even being in class and being, like, starting to feel, and I would start sweating and stuff, and then I would think, "Man, what if everyone." I would just start overthinking everything, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
"What if they notice that I'm looking weird and shaking, and is everyone staring at me?" And
Yeah.
dude, it would just go on. It was a freaking
Yeah. So
I
typically
can relate to people going through that,
100%. But here's the thing
but it
that I
was
try to
such
help.
crap.
Here's what I try to a lot of times help people understand. And I do a lot of this because, with my company, What Good Looks Like, we work exclusively with college students and college athletes.
Okay.
And so we do a lot of anxiety, social anxiety, test anxiety, class anxiety, like the stuff you're talking about right now, we deal with on a daily basis,
Right.
with our clients at universities. And typically what I tell people is this, like there's a couple things. One, the majority of the people in the class are thinking the same stuff you are.
Right. No, no, no. And let them know, not even in the class, in the meetings. Dude,
100%.
I had to learn, dude, you're not as big as like,
Well, that's the other thing
that's
is
what I
you're
had to
just
learn.
not that important.
Right, dude, everyone's thinking about their own crap too. I started learning, and everyone's a freaking mess also.
Right. Well, and how many people have you looked around the classroom and been like, oh my gosh, they're a mess. Like, oh my gosh, look at that guy. Like, oh my, you're not, because you're too busy thinking about yourself, which is what everybody else is doing too.
And even if you did, I would think for a second, and then I would be like, oh, and then I move on to my next, okay, whatever, and move on. Like, I'm not even going to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, we're overthinking ourselves much more than other people.
100%. The other thing too
I
is
just feel like someone needed to hear that.
Yeah,
you know?
no, absolutely. Well, the other thing too, and I think this is important for people to understand, and this is what I talked about just a minute ago, is saying like all anxiety isn't bad. Like we got to quit looking at anxiety like it's some dragon we have to slay.
Mm.
right? I mean, like anxiety is anxiety. Like every single human being walking the planet experiences it.
Right. The part of it is wired for some type of survival.
1,000% it is.
It's like the whole fight or flight.
Yes. It's just too much anxiety,
Yeah.
and how we respond to anxiety is problematic.
And how we perceive it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not the
yeah,
anxiety
yeah.
itself. It's like with like substance abuse, like alcoholism. Like alcohol is not the problem. Like if alcohol was the problem, we would not exist as a country.
Mm.
If alcohol was the problem, because how many people drink alcohol?
Right.
Most of them.
Right.
Right. So if alcohol was the problem, then we would have a complete disaster on our hands. Alcohol is a failed attempt to a solution to a problem. Alcohol isn't designed to be a solution. Right? Anxiety is not the problem. Like everybody has it. Everybody experiences it. But here's the thing, when you are experiencing it, especially when you're experiencing it at a high level, it feels like completely out of control. And it feels so scary and it feels so debilitating. And so I don't want to minimize that.
Right. Right.
But I just think like if you can start to just have a little bit of a different perspective on it, like, okay, look, it's just anxiety.
Right.
It's just anxiety. Here it is. It's happening, but I've got a solution. Like I've got a technique. I've got things I can do. I've got my chart. Like there's things I can do to get better with this. And
I've learned to do it anyway. When you're something for me that I've continued to is like, don't let it stop you. I used to, and one day I'm like, that's it. Cause in ways it is a battle when it's affecting your life in an unhealthy way.
yeah.
And it's like, I didn't want to have a show. I didn't want to be speaking like in front of 5,000 people when I didn't want to be that guy. I'm like, dude, I dropped speech class. But like I always say, I believe in God, whatever you believe in. And he's like, cool, dude. But anyway, it's not about you.
It's not about
Get over yourself, bro, because I don't care about that. It's
Yeah.
about who I'm helping through you. So when it hits me, and it still hits me all the time, I
Sure.
tell people this, that I'm like, I hear that it's not about you. Get over yourself, dude.
Yeah.
You're not going to die.
Nope.
Dude, and I've also, something that has helped me is I've learned I'll joke about it and I'll talk about it and I'll just put it out there. And then it's like, okay, no one, I've been on stage before and literally been like, hold on, let me check my pulse. And I'm like, seriously, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm honestly having a panic attack. Just give me, and everyone will laugh and
Yeah.
then I'll kind of laugh.
Yeah.
And I'm actually like dealing with it with them.
Yeah.
But we all put it out there and I'm like, all right, a few deep breaths. Okay. Hey, know when you're having it, you can get through it. Cause I
Yeah.
just thought I was good. But dude, it washes away when I put it out there. It used, the flip side
100%.
used to be like, oh, I should hide it all. If I say this, they're going to think. When I put it out there and joke about it, then people will come after and they're like, you struggle with that and you still like could speak? And I'm like, yeah. I thought like I was going to puke. I still hear the crap in
Yeah.
my head. Mark, you can't do this.
Yeah.
You can't. When you do it more, though, it is like a muscle, I will say, like it like confidence, and we can get into that because that's a huge part. It's a skill that you can build like a muscle to get better at, like working with your anxiety the right way.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing too.
Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. So here's the other thing too. Like anxiety is like we don't ever celebrate the wins. Like we don't celebrate not having anxiety.
That's so true. We give so much airplay to those, like you said, the 28 minutes out of the 10,000.
28 minutes out of 10,000 and we can't function. It shuts us down.
Yeah.
But like really?
But those other 9,000,
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
9,000, 900 minutes, you freaking killed it. Like you were fine. You accomplished all these great things, but yet there's no success. There's no attaboy. There's no pat on the back for any of that. Right? I mean, it's like what I was thinking about this the other day. I was watching a football game, and I think it was like a bad snap,
Mm-hmm.
and they just kind of went on and on about this bad snap, and I'm like, man, this dude has snapped the ball like 128 times
Right.
today,
Right.
perfectly,
Right.
and one time he like messed up by an inch, and now he's like terrible at his job.
Dude,
I'm like, whew, that's a tough.
Dude,
That's
I'm
a
writing
tough
that
crowd.
down. Bad snap analogy. Dude, this is so perfect what you just gave, because this not only goes with the inner critic in our head when you're dealing with it,
Yeah.
it goes with the haters. It goes all the noisy drama and stuff we've heard. People think that that's the popular norm. Like when we hear people picketing about this is going, every race hates each other. My wife's from Sierra Leone, and I'm like, dude, the real conversations I have with people on the street aren't what you're seeing on the news. It's 1% of the negative people are making 100% of the noise on a lot of these platforms and the news and all that crap. And people are thinking that's 100% of the reality.
Yeah.
Just like with anxiety and just like with that fumble. And you can either choose to, and with business, we all screw up, we fumble. And if you sit there, I've heard the same analogy with a pitcher, because they've got to mentally, it's just them. They're throwing it like they could throw 9 balls in a row, and the probability of their next pitch being a ball or a strike is still the same probability, whether they threw 7 strikes before it or 7 balls.
Yeah.
It's still, so if they sit there and focus on, I just threw 7 balls, you're gonna, but if you got to get yourself focused on that next pitch.
Well, it's the power of
right?
Perception, right? I mean, think about that. I love baseball analogies. And one of the reasons I love baseball analogies is like, if like baseball's hard.
Yeah.
Like
people don't realize
hitting a baseball is really, really hard.
Yeah.
In fact, if you can hit the ball 3 times out of 10, you'll go to the Hall of Fame.
Like a high batting average is what? Like,
I mean, if you're a 300 batting average, so that means 3 out of 10.
That's like,
you're going to go to the Hall of Fame. That means if you step up to the plate and fail 70% of the time, you're still one of the best that's ever done it.
That's crazy, dude. And people don't comprehend, like,
do you know what else is
I have
hard?
not ever hit against a professional.
No.
Having that ball thrown at me once and hearing that, I'd be like
100 miles an hour. Like, I didn't even
dude,
see that.
Or
Have
getting
you thrown
hit
it yet?
Getting hit by it.
Have you thrown the ball? Like, I didn't even.
Dude, that is just insanity.
But you know what else is really hard? Like starting a business.
Exactly.
Running a business.
Having someone, having a partner or your trusted person you work with for years stab you in the back, steal your business ideas,
steal your money.
Thinking, again, this goes with a focus is what we're talking about. Because if you only keep, we're not saying don't learn from it. Because, dude, we had someone take our business ideas and create another company similar to ours that worked for us for some years that we loved, we trusted. Huge betrayal. Guess what I learned from that?
What?
My CPA that I work with, and then someone else I have that owns a company. He's like, "Do you have a non-compete clause?" A what?
Yeah.
Do you have a non-compete clause?
Non-compete.
No. Dude, you're an idiot. Get a non-compete clause. That won't ever happen again. Guess what? Ask me that now. Do we have a non-compete clause? Yes,
you do.
How did I learn that? Not because I got my MBA and learned how to. I learned it because someone screwed me over. But I could spend all my life never trusting and will never get anyone good again and focusing on that last ball. Or, okay, is this something that is this something teachable, learnable? And I'm not saying it doesn't suck or hurt. and I had to go through that process, but I continue.
But you can either let it
I
just
can
suck and
focus
hurt and like drain you,
and
or
keep
you can
moving.
use that as a learning moment. And it kind of reminds me about
That's
like
probably like been one of the keys to my success. Now that I think about it, is crappy stuff happens,
and then you learn from it.
but I keep going for. But I'll have times and moments, and I'll put a limit, but it'll drive me more to keep going.
Yeah. Oh,
So like I'm gonna keep going and be successful. So like I could look back and think of so many losses I've had, but I've been able to build these other successes because I just keep going, dude.
yeah. Well, the other thing that I was thinking about when you were talking about this was like your chapter in your book, like you suck at subcontractors.
Yes.
Like it's so true. And I think about this and I challenge people. I spoke at a conference a couple months ago, and I really challenged people on this, and I'll do it again today. Like in your business, and I tell this when I work with my clients, I'd be like, in your business, you're quick to bring in a subcontractor.
Mm.
You're quick to bring in a specialist. I need a specialist to look at my revenue model. Like I need a specialist to look at my scaling options.
Because
I
we're
need
busy, we're tired, we don't have time.
Yeah, or they could bring in someone that has a skill set that could like bring a different perspective, a different set of eyes. But they'll spend all this money.
Let me take this off your. Let me, and you want them so bad to be right. Let me come in and take this off your hands. I can triple your ROI. I can help.
And sometimes it's great. Like there's people that can come in and do that are very talented.
Not
at
if you're
that.
quick, but not if you're quick.
Yeah.
Not if.
But
there's no such thing as not if they offer you a quick.
Right,
beware of someone like you just said
fix
that offers you a quick fix. How did I learn this? I've been screwed over by it.
Yeah, no.
Go ahead.
But like my challenge is like you'll bring in a specialist to look at something at your business, but you're slow to do that to look for your mental health.
That's true.
Like, why are you willing to fork over all this money for the quick fix?
Right.
Or for the subcontractor that brings in a special skill set that gives you a special advantage, but yet you won't do this. You won't bring in a coach or a therapist for your own mental wellness.
Or invest in a leadership or actually go into something like
some personal development.
And don't get me, the right subcontractors that costs I have that are rock stars you need, and they're game changers. And
Right.
it's so important. Some of it, you've got to go through the trenches and learn the stuff, then even be at the level to understand to know when to bring a subcontractor in. But you're so right for yourself and like for your leadership and stuff like that too. I remember I invested a huge amount, like 4 years in, when I hit that ceiling on my leadership. I'm like, dude, I've got drama going on in my company. There's people that there's not unity. I'm trying to be nice to everyone. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Our companies, we have a waiting list. I came across, I give props to him all the time, Dave Ramsey's Entree Leadership. His book, not the financial part, all about building his company, starting with 1 employee to 20 to 50 to 500 to 800. Then I paid more than I've ever paid in my life to go there in person with 80 other business owners. At that time, we were a smaller company. It was a huge amount of money to invest. Getting around these other people, not even in my field, and this is what we're talking about, was the first time that I wasn't the alien anymore.
Yeah.
And I could relate. It was like therapeutic. And he was going over the real talk. Like we're talking about, like, dude, when someone screws you over, like, and you need to write a non-compete clause, like, and I'm like, oh, he's done it.
Yeah.
He gets it. Or when you're having gossip and drama, we have a no gossip policy. I'm like, oh, what? I implemented that.
Yeah.
But also then do it your way. Like, get the wisdom from people, but don't just only then apply it to your culture accordingly.
Absolutely. Make it fit.
But investing in that, and then investing in the right like coaches or anyone. Look, Michael Jordan, for example, Tim Grover, like
Yeah.
in his book, he said when he sent his thing out to everyone, he was in Chicago to all the Bulls. He sent it to everyone but Michael Jordan because he's like, he was studying this new form of working out, how to build these different like strategic muscles for basketball. He had a whole new program and he's like, oh, Michael Jordan's already the best. He won't answer it. So he sent it to everyone except Michael
But
Jordan.
MJ.
Listen, no one replied. And then like 2 months went by and he gets a call. And it's from like the head manager there. And they're like, hey, Michael Jordan wants to meet with you. And he's like, what? So think about this.
Yeah.
The best person on the team knew I want to always invest to get better. So they met. He listened to what he had to say. And he's like, okay, I'll give you a chance. He hired him, paid a bunch of money. Because Tim Grover said some players would be like, well, the team won't pay for that, man. So why should I do that? Why should I? Michael Jordan's like, okay, whatever. Anyway, he invested that, ended up making way more, winning more. But people think, oh, it just came naturally.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't. It requires more and more effort and more investment into yourself. It's like, a lot of times people, I mean, even with physical health,
Yes.
like people are much more likely to invest in their physical health. Like even businesses, they'll be like, oh, we really want to take care of all of our employees. So everyone gets a gym membership.
Right.
But how are you investing in the mental health of your company and of the people that work for you? And the funny thing is the one organ in our body that we can't replace, it's our brain.
Mm.
I mean, even if our heart goes bad, we can get a new one plugged in, but not our
You
brain.
can't get a brain transplant. Not yet. Elon Musk. We're waiting.
Elon, where you at?
That's so true, though.
But that's the one that we always put last.
Hmm.
It's crazy.
How are you connecting with people since because you were at, okay, wait, let me ask you, because I don't even know. I was waiting for the show. What did you do to get in prison? Did you kill someone when you were doing a podcast?
Yes, I was doing a podcast in South
the guy
Florida.
asked the wrong question. I shanked him.
Man, so this kind of goes to what we were talking about, like, earlier, and I think it was before we even started the podcast, but it's about like, I work with people because I've lived a life, not because I read about it in books.
Yeah,
right? Like I struggled with mental health, substance abuse. So I was a alcoholic drug addict.
Like start like younger, like
yeah. I mean, I took my first drink at 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Beat me.
Arrested for the first time at 16, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, at 20 was, or no. In fact, I was 22, 23. I had a pretty significant opiate habit. So this was back in like 2000, 99, 2000. It's really when the like opiate epidemic was like really like taking off. I had about a $2,000 a week habit.
Whoa.
Yeah. And you can imagine like,
where were you living? Like
in Atlanta.
Like, did you have roommates?
Yeah. I mean, we had a bunch of us kind of, at
Like
one point in time, I lived in just outside of Seattle. We had 7 of us in a 2-bedroom apartment.
You don't ever see that in Seattle. No, I'm just
yeah. Right. But I mean, like, so think about it. Like, how does somebody who's unemployed and unemployable, like, just do the simple math. $2,000 a week, 52 weeks in a year, that's over $100,000. And that's just to stay high. That doesn't even include like food, rent.
Right. That's just to support the habit.
Yeah. So how do you do? The only way I could figure out how to like do that was to sell dope.
Mm.
And so I started selling dope and all kinds of coke, ecstasy, weed, like you name it. I
Right.
sold it. And then in Georgia one day, sold a bunch of dope to an undercover DEA agent.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
How so how was it not obvious, like, at all?
No, yeah, and don't believe anything you see in the movies either, because I asked him if he was a cop. And he was like, absolutely not.
Really?
And I told my lawyer, I was like, he said he wasn't a cop. He's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. I was like, damn, I thought I was good.
I thought that was like Amendment 12.5
yeah,
or
yeah.
something.
Isn't there something in the Constitution somewhere that says? But yeah, so no, I mean, it was a bad decision, but yet it was the best decision of my life.
Do do you think were you selling it at enough of a level where, because was the DEA looking for you, you think, or was it just a random, and obviously it wasn't random because you've been doing it for a long
Yeah.
time, so it's just a matter of time till you kind
Yeah.
of do get caught. But do you think that there was like
I
a
mean,
word out or something, or
Yeah, I mean, probably. I mean, it's funny. Like I talk to like people, friends and stuff now, and when they kind of hear about my story, they're like, "Oh my God, you were like a kingpin." I'm like, "No, no. Like the guy who sold it to the guy who sold it to the guy who sold it to the guy before I got it, like that guy's a kingpin."
right?
Like I was. I mean, like, yes,
It was enough to be
it was enough.
prison.
It was enough to go to prison, and it was enough to support my habit. It was enough to pay a lot of money for an attorney, but
So prison. So
yeah,
it
so I ended up,
it was so it was enough to where it wasn't just it was enough to where it was
yes.
distributing,
So I got
like a felony.
had 6 felonies.
6?
Yeah, because I sold to him, and then after I sold to him, they came and swarmed in and arrested me, and then I had a bag, and in that bag
Oh.
I had money, a lot of money. I had marked money, so I had the money from the undercover.
Proof of transaction.
Yeah. And then I had a bunch of different drugs, and so I had 6 felonies. And I pled out to 3 of them, and then I got sentenced to 10 years.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Prison.
10 years in the Georgia State Prison.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Dude, what do you feel like? What was going through your head? So were you in there enough by the time you were sentenced to be sober? Like, were you?
No, so like I was out on like bond.
Oh, okay. So you were still.
Yeah, and it was crazy. I mean, I would say it's funny. It wasn't really funny, but like I got arrested while I was out on bond,
Oh, wow.
and like I got pulled over, and I was smoking pot when I got pulled over.
That doesn't help your case.
No.
Huh?
Well, and it was fun. Like they ended up just releasing me on my own recognizance because they were like, "Buddy, you got bigger fish to fry.
Wow.
Like we're not even going to waste our time.
We're not even going to add this to the list.
Yeah, I mean, they like I ended up having to go back to court for it. Like they had to transport me from prison to go back. And it was funny. Like I had my lawyer and we sat down and we just like looked at the DA and we're like, yeah, throw the book at me. Like I'm not pleading out like to anything. Like just throw the book, but run it concurrent. So like the highest, because I was like, I don't want any fines. I don't want any court costs. Just give me the max, which is 1 year in prison. I was like, so I'm already in prison for 10.
So they gave you the full,
Yeah,
like
so
they
just
weren't
gave me
like
the year, and the judge just ran it concurrent. So in other words, like it didn't add a year. It just was like you're already sentenced to 10 years, so we're just going to lump that in, and it'll count for that too. That way, I didn't have to pay any fines or anything for it.
You didn't do 10 years though, right?
No, I served 3.
You served 3. So when you were you clear headed or not? Like, how does it sink in, or what point does like, dude, 10, like, because when you were told 10, you didn't know it was going to be 3. Not that 3 is a short time.
Nah,
but when you were told 10 years, like, at what point does it feel real? Like,
well, here's the thing though. Like, so my attorney had worked out a deal with the DA.
Okay.
That had no prison time.
So you thought you were going to get off?
Yeah. Like I was going to pay a huge fine. I was going to like go to all these classes, have a huge probation period, but we had it all worked out. And so I stood there next to my attorney And the DA stood up and said, "This is our recommendation." Da 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 da. And the judge just like, he's just like flipping through the file, and he closed the file, and he looked up and he goes, "I don't accept that."
Wow.
He goes, "You had more." He's like, "You had the street value of your drugs were more than I'm making a year. You're not walking out of here.
Wow.
I sentenced you to 10 years in prison." And like, yo, like it was like getting sucked into a vortex. I mean, it was just like, like, I mean, like I instantly just started sweating, like sweat. Like I just like, holy crap. Like I was not expecting that. Like I was literally expecting to just,
Dude, and part of it almost has to feel like this isn't real. Like,
oh,
when did you? So then they transport you. Like, when
yeah,
did
the bailiffs come and get you and just take you back.
when did it really sink in? Where like I'm here for 10 years? Is it like they take you back? Is the one connected to the courtroom isn't the same one where you're doing the 10 years though, right?
No. So they take you back there, and then they wait and they transport you back to the county jail.
Right. I've been there.
Right. So you go back to the county jail. But then here's where it gets weird. So my attorney went and he asked to meet with the judge in chambers. I didn't know any of this because the bailiffs took me away. So my attorneys went with the DA. They went back and met with the judge in chambers and basically said, Your Honor, we were expecting a deal. We had everything worked out. He was completely not prepared. He's not a flight risk. Can I request he have 72 hours to get his affairs in order? He's lives in a house. He's renting a home. Like, he's in college. Like all these, can he have 72 hours to get his affairs in order and then turn himself in to serve his time? And the judge granted that. So I'm back. So now I'm just getting booked into county jail thinking, I'm like, okay, like, let me try to get my mind around this. And they come and call me up.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're getting out
For 72
hours.
hours.
So I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Wow.
So I get out and there's my attorney and he's like, I bought you 72 hours to get your life in order, get your affairs in order. So then it was like, okay, like, and my girlfriend had to find another place to live, had to call my landlord, get out of my lease. Like, I mean, there was just a lot to do.
Man, that's crazy.
And then go back and turn myself in.
So what is it like when you're going then? When you turn in, you don't go to the county, you go to where
no, you go back to county.
But is that the same as
that's not where
prison?
you stay. No, that's not prison. So you go to county and you wait to go into the prison system.
Right.
So I went back to county and I stayed in county for about 2 months.
Okay. How different was prison than county?
I mean, in some senses it's better.
Really?
Because like it's made for the long haul. Right? So it's like the store's better. Like you can like buy better food and stuff off the store. Like the yard's better. Like it's designed for people to be there a long time.
Okay.
Whereas like county, like you just sit around and play cards. Like there's like no TV. I mean, they turn the TVs on at night if there's a TV.
Right.
Like it's just the county's short term. Like it's just designed to hold people for a couple of days, weeks.
What about the people though? Like where you at?
Oh, no, prison's a different.
Were you at? Were you with? Is there like a caliber of?
Yeah. So once they take you out of county, they put you into what they call diagnostics.
Okay.
And so diagnostics is where they go in and you go through a medical process to make sure you don't have any like STDs or HIV, like anything like that. You go through a psychological exam to make sure you're not going to go crazy and kill yourself or other people. Like, so they take you through all these like testing. And so then they take how you do on that, which is really just like, he's fine or he's not fine. They take you through all that and then they go through your like criminal records and stuff. And they give you a classification, which is your security level.
So
that's where you're like, max, closed, minimum, medium security.
So you wouldn't be in with
security,
people that have
trustees.
done like murder and stuff.
No. I was definitely in with people that did murder.
Okay.
But it was like usually they had, so like a couple of the old timers in there they had come down to medium security.
Got it. Got it.
Like they started at like max or
Okay.
close,
Okay.
but they had been locked up for 20 something years,
Okay.
and were like
And had showed some.
hadn't gotten in trouble, and you know, so. And
What?
I mean, look, and it's crazy too. I mean, like one cat I was in there with, like, you know, like there was a dude, like, like raped his 14-year-old sister, so he killed him. And
Oh wow! A dude raped his 14-year-old sister, and he killed the dude that raped him.
yeah,
Hmm.
and I'm kind of like, and why
Dude.
are you here?
Right. That's kind of like
Yeah.
one of those things that we need way more details on too.
Yeah, but he was poor and black.
Did you see? So did you see that a lot?
Oh, absolutely,
Really?
absolutely.
Wow.
Like crazy disparities.
Like what do you think? But they weren't easy on you though. Like giving you
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah, well, they gave me a 10-3.
I mean, you
right?
ended up
So-
getting the 3, but they didn't. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
there's
but-
some people in
but
your
this- my
situation that
sentence-
could have got. I'm not diminishing
Nah,
the
but
facts, but
so,
I'm just.
like I could have it called for a sentence of 44.
Oh.
Like they could have given me up to 44 years.
Oh. Oh. Okay. So 10 was like the lighter.
Yeah, well, it was a 10, and it was a 10-3. So in other words, we're giving you 10 years. 3 of them you need to spend in prison. 7 of them you need to spend on probation.
Okay.
And like if I hadn't had
Dude, 7 years of probation sucks, but at least you're out.
yeah.
So you
You know what though? 7 years of probation doesn't suck if you
Compared
don't
to-
break any rules.
right compared to being in prison, it's way better.
Yeah, if you don't smoke dope, sell dope, break the law, probation's actually pretty easy.
Good point. Good point.
You
Good
know what
point.
I mean?
What
Like in fact, I was off probation for a year before I knew it.
what did you see with the disparity of, like, did you largely see it? Is there something you think that was specific of like a mindset of like how to help someone to, like, dude, like our guy we were talking about, Wall Street Trapper. I don't great dude. I don't know his full name. I've seen some of his stuff.
Yeah.
I actually know you connect. Would love to get him on the show in the future. I respect what he does, but like he was in prison. I remember him sharing. I started learning from like this white dude about
Finances.
the game's not totally rigged because
Yeah.
I'm just trying to flip into that mindset, because you can get into everything's against me, and we're not saying there's not injustice, because you said you saw it.
Oh yeah.
But when you're able to empower yourself and learn, wait, I
Well,
can get out of this
I mean-
and be successful like he did.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different areas. I mean, first of all, there was 64 guys, 64 beds in our dorm, right? So I was in a room with 64 guys, and I think there was maybe 6 of us were white.
Really? Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, I'm sorry, but like, black folks don't commit more crimes at that type of level.
Right. Wow. And your environment of your friends and stuff that you're with too, like when you were going through that and getting out of it and through the process, like how key is it to, no matter where you're coming from though, like teaching how to learn? That's a whole other like, there's so many layers to that, but how can we help people? Because we've seen people be successful from every situation. And one of the things I remember was like changing who I was hanging out
Oh,
with, but it wasn't as easy right off the gate, right out of the gate. Well, no, let me ask you something, because this is about you and not me. What was like one of the worst, scariest moments, like 3 years? What was like one of the, because dude, I'm thinking of the movie. I did some like in jail. So I was in prison.
Yeah.
Thank God. I would have ended up there. If I didn't flip stuff around, I would have ended up dead. I had friends that went there.
Yeah.
I had friends that died, but I just think of stuff or from the movies and all, like, was it that crazy? Was there something like that was really freaky, or was it more just the mindset and the like knowing I'm in prison and like getting through it?
I mean, it's a roller coaster, right? I mean, like I can look at parts of my time there, and like I've like, it sounds crazy, but I have like some fond memories, right?
Like
Like
some
I
good
made some like
conversations.
incredible people, just
Mm.
really good people. Um, you know, funny times, you know, watching ball games and getting, you know, like all like crunk and loud and, you know, just, you know, playing spades. Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
had some, you know, we had a basket, like every dorm. So there was 5 or 6 dorms. Every dorm had a basketball team. And like, I
Mm.
was the coach to our basketball team. And like, we had tournaments and like, we had practice, like you'd get to court for practice time. And we were like
Mm.
team meetings in the dorm. Like that was fun, you know. But then there were also some times that were pretty scary, like when my bunkmate got beat with a master lock in a sock.
Oh, forget the bar of soap, a master lock.
A master lock
Oh
in a
God.
sock, just beat. And then I had pieces of his face like all on my bed
Oh,
sheets.
dang. Do you know why?
It's something about
Something
it
going
was like
on.
it was a gambling dad, or saying he was going to do something he didn't do. I can't remember.
Gosh.
You know, I mean, he looked like Rocky Balboa, you know, after Apollo Creed. I mean, his whole face was purple, eyes swollen, you know, like breaking his razor and cutting his eyelid so it would bleed, you know, it would drain. And then the officers are like, "What the hell happened?" And he's like, "Oh, I slipped in the shower."
So he didn't want to say anything because
Oh,
he
no,
knew he'd get beat more, right?
yeah. You know, and then like I remember,
Did they leave him alone after that?
well, they ended up figuring out who
Like,
did it and got the guy out of there who beat him
oh,
up.
dang.
But then like I'll never forget, like I got, so like currency in there is, you know, like items from the store. So like stamps, chips, ramen, sodas, cigarettes, candy bars, like that's currency.
Right.
And so I had a like a sheet of stamps that was under my mattress, got stolen. And like I remember walking into my cut, which is the area between the bunks, and I lifted it up to look, and my stamps were gone. And like I had to make a decision, right? Like, do I just say, "Oh well, there go my stamps"?
And if you
Which
do that, people will take more advantage of you.
that was my concern. It was like, now I've just put a giant target on my back,
Mm.
right? Or I can try to do something about it.
Mm.
So I was at a work camp, so a lot of people like went out, picked up, you know, cut grass on the side of the road, picked up trash, that kind of stuff. So we had like work boots. So I'm in my gym shorts and a t-shirt. I put my work boots on, and I go back to the back where there's a big open shower, and there's like a broom, like a push broom, right? And I snap the push broom handle, and I go stand in the shower, and I just start yelling at the top of my lungs, "Hey, you punk MF mother blah blah blah, who took my stamps, come back here and handle your business."
Did you know who did it? Or
I had no idea.
Mm.
And I was just praying to God that no one was going to come back there and handle their business.
Oh man. Did
But one
anyone-
way or the other, like either I was just going to start swinging that thing and hoping to
Right.
God the cops got in there and stopped it before one of us died, probably me,
Right.
or I go in there and I take an ass whooping and they come in and break it up before I die. But at least I've learned to respect.
Right. Right. They saw so
So I went back there and just hollered and swung the stick around and yelled and called the person who stole them every name in the book. No one ever came back, but no one ever stole from me again either.
and you just walk out there like, you know, anyone ever effing knows anything?
Yeah.
Just,
Well, but the other thing too is like, I mean,
that makes
listen,
sense though, dude. That's just that's real. That's real. Like that's real.
yeah.
That's just
And look, I mean, listen, the thing that got my biggest survival technique in there was my entrepreneurial spirit.
like what do you mean? Like explain.
Like, listen, if you want to survive in prison, you got to earn respect. You can either earn respect by fear, like beating people up, or you can earn respect by hustling.
So entrepreneurial, like you figured out how to provide
Figured
value.
out how to make money.
Oh, how to make money. Okay.
Yeah, I figured out how to make money in prison.
Oh.
So like, you know, it started off with my job was in the laundry. Right. And so what I started doing was telling guys in there, like, hey, I won't wash your stuff with all that crap that the people cutting grass. Like, I'll wash yours separate. I put a little extra bleach on it, have you looking good on visitation day when your wife comes, when your mom and dad come, right? And then like, but it's gonna cost you a little bit. So I charged them to do their extras. And then I went to the chemical guy. So which was a guy that was on the cleaning staff that went around and sprayed bleach and stuff. And I'd slip him a little money and he'd slip me a little bleach.
Hiring it out.
Right. And then like I'd go into the laundry and I was washing the separate loads. Well, the problem was the guy who ran the laundry, who was an inmate, like my clientele built up bigger than his faster. And this is where I went wrong. I actually went into his dorm and started doing people's.
Oh.
And so I didn't respect his turf. And so one of the things he did when I was taking the load back to my dorm, he slid a bag in there. He goes, hey, here's a bag for so-and-so. I need you to take it to him. I said, all right, bet. I threw it in the thing. And I went around. I got pulled over. In other words, the guards were like, hey, we need to inspect your bag. And I was like, okay. That was my big laundry cart, right? And so they started going through it. And that bag that he threw in there had like some Playboys in it. And that's contraband.
Oh.
And they were like, yeah, you're done. And so I got fired from the laundry.
Oh, wow.
So he tried to take my hustle, but that was all good. Like I just started a parlay ring. And I started running parlays on football, basketball, NASCAR, like everything you could run a parlay on, I was running a parlay on.
But that's a learning thing too of, okay, now I feel I'm in this again and my parlay's getting to a level where I'm getting bets and it's now going to now I'm going to have a conversation with dude. Hey, I'm doing good here. If I start, what can we work out?
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing.
Like, did you learn that something like that?
Yeah.
Because we were kind of talking about this in business today.
My parlay was called the Big Show. So my nickname before I went to prison, still to this day, a lot of my friends call me Big Perm.
Big Perm.
Yeah. And so my parlay name in prison was called the Big Show. And so I had my tickets that went out, all had the Big Show on them, like all that kind of stuff. And so there was a guy in dorm 1. He was called the Greek. Now, dorm 1 was the white dorm. Like after I'd been there for about a month, they tried to get me over there. I was not interested. Like,
so they really tried to separate it out.
Well, like the inmates were like, "Hey, we can get you over here." And I was like, "I'm good." Like it was a little too,
right,
Aryan Nation for me.
Did they take offense to that?
No, they were cool with it because I wasn't like, "No, y'all are crazy." I was just like, "Man, I'm good.
Cool.
I got a little hustle going over here. I'm gonna keep it up." Like they were
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay, bet." So then the Greek was running his parlay ticket. Greek was a cool dude. Like I like Greek, right? But then there was one other dude, Ricardo, ran a parlay ticket. So that's 3 parlay tickets, but 2 of them were from white dudes. And so I was like, man, this isn't gonna go over well. So I actually scheduled a meeting with Ricardo on the yard. And I went and sat down with Ricardo and we just walked the yard. And I was like, hey, I got this dorm and this dorm on lock. Like you got your dorm and that dorm on lock. Like, Greek does his little thing, but I ain't worried about him. Like, why don't we just come together and we can expand this thing out? We can run poker tables, skins, games. Like, why stop at parlay? And so, but what that also did was Ricardo had been down for a minute. Everybody respected him and they weren't going to mess with his ticket. That's why I wanted to partner with him. Hell, we split it 50-50. I'd have done 70-30. Like, I didn't even care.
Right.
Like, for me, there was a level of like protection. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
partner, because if you stole from me, you were stealing from Ricardo, and I wouldn't recommend that.
So that's like a business lesson learned in prison, by the way.
100%.
And you learned it by what happened for, like, it maybe had that other situation not happened, you wouldn't have thought,
100%.
And we talked about it today with business, the golden rule. And I was like, dude, when in doubt with anything, if you're wondering if it's wrong or right or worrying, I've learned over communicate versus under.
Always.
When in doubt, over communicate and have it be, oh no, that's no big deal. That was fine. Okay, cool. I'd rather over communicate than not, and then find out it's a problem later.
Yeah.
So nip it in the butt, do the golden rule, because even if it creates a little conflict and you talk it through, it's going to be way better. But dude, that's like an entrepreneurial lesson.
Well, you suck at innovating, right? Or like insane, right? You suck at insane.
Yeah, you suck at being insane. Yeah.
Or innovating.
Yeah,
You know, and if making this, you know, the definition of insanity is making the same mistake over and over again, expecting different results,
exactly.
you know, and it's like ultimately, like, does it matter what others think about you or your methods?
Yeah. What do you think it is that makes some people connect those dots and others not? Like you with that, like, okay, now this time I'm going to check my ego or whatever, and I'm going to focus on the end result. I'm going to keep getting these bets. That's making me money here. This is going to bring me to another level of success versus someone else that's like, I don't care, man. I don't want this fool stepping on, after they've done it over. What do you
Yeah.
think that is?
Well, you just have to learn, you know, for me, there's a level of, I mean, it depends on where you are, right? But you have to learn how to read a room.
But what do you think it is to those that don't? I'm just like,
Yeah. You know, I think life experience
mm,
plays a lot into it, right? Like, I don't think I was like born with the skill set on how to
right.
survive like that. I think I just started figuring it out.
Mm,
But I mean, I also think that like, I don't know, man, like there was a hustle and an entrepreneur in me, like from as far back as I can remember.
yeah,
I mean, when I
because
was
you
in
were selling, I mean,
before
to
that,
support a
bro,
big habit.
when I was in third grade, there was an ice cream man that came to my neighborhood and like one other neighborhood, but not the rest of the neighborhoods in my school district. And he had this one candy that was called Sour Powers. And there were these red sour straws, and
Yeah,
they were fire.
they
And you could
still
get,
have
oh
some
yeah, you
similar
could,
now. My
yeah,
son loves them.
yeah, and you can get, so you could get them from the ice cream man for a dime, 10 for $1. Well, everybody at my school would freak out that I had them. So what I started doing was taking my whole allowance and buying nothing but Sour Powers,
Mm,
and then taking them to school and selling them for a quarter a piece.
that's great. Making a
Right?
profit.
Yeah. And then I sort of started taking that profit, and I convinced my mom to take me to Sam's,
Mm.
where I just loaded up on blow pops, now and laters, like you name it. And then I kept a little bag. I was a candy man.
Mm.
And I paid a dude because you weren't supposed to sell candy. So I paid a kid with blow pops to let me keep my candy in his locker. And then people would meet me between classes, and I'd give them candy out of this dude's locker. Like, this is at third grade, bro.
That's
I
crazy.
was like 8.
That's crazy.
Like, that was just kind of like in my, like, just like who I am. Like, that's just
Right.
sort of what I did. Like, I see a service, there's a need, I can profit from it. You know, I didn't think I was hurting anybody selling candy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, with the drugs, it was different. Like, I was
Right.
hurting people, but I didn't care because I was sick.
Right, right, right. You weren't even. I was doing all that too. In my mind was so far away from. Same with driving blacked out all the time. Not
Yeah.
when the judge is like, "Dude, forget about your face being beat up. You lucky you didn't kill someone."
Right.
And like ream me when I thought they were gonna let me off easy. Gave me like the full of everything, and then I was like later on, like, "Oh yeah, they." In the moment, didn't think they were right, but later on, I'm like,
Yeah.
that was so. But it was like I was just in a daze of I'm just getting messed up all the time. It's a blur.
Yeah.
I remember I used to not think I was gonna live to be 21. I'm like, dude, before I
Oh,
can
dude.
legally drink, I won't be alive anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
I didn't want to die, but I remember thinking like I'm probably not gonna make it.
I didn't want to die. I just didn't care if I did.
Yeah, I thought I didn't, but I don't know deep down. But I wasn't living like I did. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, my last use of my drug of choice was an overdose.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Like, turned blue. Like, they found me blue on the floor. You know, I remember one time right there at the end, like, I took a whole big old pill of Oxycontin and crushed it up, and then threw in a bunch of ketamine and mixed it up and went to snort it. My
Oh.
friend grabbed my arm and was like, "What are you doing? That's too much." And I was like, "If it is, it is." And then I went down and did it. Like, I'll never forget that moment.
Wow.
Like, I wasn't like actively trying to kill myself. I just didn't care if I completed it.
Right. It wasn't like I'm on, but it's just I'm like so numb and
But
out of
that's
it.
how
And
like miserable I was.
yeah. So dude, remember we talked about respect for Eminem, like Marshall Mathers, how
Yeah.
long I heard him talking. with his dude, and dude, he was saying his days, he was like taking like 85 Vicodin in a night.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm thinking 15, 20, 25, 85.
Yeah, it's
I
nuts,
had to
man.
listen to that again. I'm like, did he just say 85?
Yeah.
And dude, he was like, I don't even know how I'm a dude. And he's like,
He
and
just
that,
built up such a tolerance.
yeah, he's like, dude, and that's not even like the max. That's like a regular night. He's like, forget about the ones I didn't remember when I was mixing everything else.
Yeah.
That was like a get by night. I'm like,
Yeah.
85.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. It's unbelievable. And that's like, like, I mean, when I tell my story, like my recovery story, so I've been sober for September was 21 years. Completely drug and alcohol
Congratulations.
free. And when I tell my story, I talk about like right there at the end, I was sitting on my couch. I had like a gallon Ziploc bag, like probably half full of Oxycontin. I mean, think about how small a pill is. And a gallon Ziploc bag, halfway full. I
Whoa.
had about 30 grand cash laid on the table. And I just sat there and started crying. I was all alone. I was in my house by myself. And I was just crying. And I had a gun.
Mm.
And I just didn't have the balls to pull the trigger. Thank God. But
Thank
that's
God.
like where it was at the very end. I was just like, I don't even have it in me to kill myself.
Dude, so prison saved your life.
100%.
Dude, that's just why I always say God is orchestrating, because that's what I was like. Me dying and getting my DUI and waking up with my face all beaten, and then the judge giving me the maximum of the probation and
Yeah.
the fines and losing my license and having to ride my bike to and
Yeah.
from where and going to therapy 2 days a week for 3 hours a session for 2 years, going riding my bike to my probation officer, breathing in the thing,
Yeah.
how depressed and all that horrible as it all was is what saved my life to
Yeah.
change. I hated that so bad that I never wanted to go back to it. And then I finally remember getting sober enough to feel fear of, dude, I could have killed someone. Wait a second. I don't remember. I drove so out of my mind hundreds and hundreds of times, blacked out, middle of the day, don't remember getting home.
Yeah.
And then I started getting scared. Dude, what if I do kill someone else? What if I'm going to end up in prison? Because I'm on probation. And I was still doing
That's
stuff.
next stop.
And then it was the fear of, dude, I can't, I got to change something or else I'm going to die or end up in prison. There's no other. And I was, dude, going through that. Like,
yeah, I call those moments of clarity.
right. And it's never, it wasn't just, it was like a process.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it was wild, man. But no, prison absolutely saved my life. And that's why like I have like this really excuse me, I have like this really interesting like viewpoint on prison. I mean, is it something I'd sign up for again? Absolutely not.
Right.
Do I think I learned incredible lessons there? Absolutely.
Right. For who you were and where you were at that time in your life, it was almost
man.
the only thing.
Yeah, so it was unbelievable. So I'll tell this quick story because I think this is important. I think people can benefit from this. Like I'd been in prison, so I got a 10-3 sentence, right? So it's called a split sentence. So considering I was a first time offender, the parole board, like you come up for parole.
Right.
And everything according to my first time offense, my nonviolent offense, like all those types of things, it called for the parole board to parole me after 12 months. So that's what unless they go off the grid.
Okay.
So off the grid would mean they don't follow their own guidelines.
Okay.
So remember, I've already had a judge not follow the guidelines, the recommendations from the DA.
Right.
So then I come up for parole at 12 months. And everyone in there is like, dude, pack your bags. Like, you're out of here. Congratulations. Right. And then I get my letter from the parole board where they went off the grid. And they said, we want you to serve your full 3-year sentence. Like, no more.
Happened again.
No more parole.
Wow.
So my parents got involved and hired like a parole attorney, like a specialized parole attorney.
Okay.
And he started building a case. He started like working with different people in the parole office, meeting with the parole board members, like all this stuff. This took, oh gosh, I mean, we probably started the process after I'd been down about 18 months, almost 2 years. We started that process. About 6 months later, it took him to get in front of the parole board to like present my case. My parents went with him, everything. And he presented my case. And I knew it was happening that day. So that night when they turned the phones on, I called mom, right? I said, you know, how'd it go? And she said, she's like, well, they denied it. You know, they said no. She's like, but we have this. And I just said, Mom, stop. Like, stop. She's like, well, what do you mean? I said, stop. Stop spending your time. Stop spending your money. Like, stop fighting this. I said, there's obviously, God still has something here for me to learn.
Wow.
So I'm telling you right now, stop. No more fighting. Like, there's something, I'm fine.
I'm gonna own up to this and
like,
him
I'm fine. I'm okay. There's still something here for me. I'll be all right. About 3 weeks later, I'm out on the yard, basketball practice. They call my name over the intercom. So they call me to come up to the counselor's office. So I go up to the counselor's office and I was like, hey, Miss Johnson, how you doing? She's like, come on in, Adam. She's like, have a seat. She's like, well, I got good news and bad news. What do you want first? I said, give me the bad news first. She said, well, your application for long-term maintenance has been denied. I said, okay. Now, long-term maintenance is where, like, when you get down to like your last year, you can put in to go work, kind of like a work camp where like you can get like a little job at a farmer's market. You can wear like street clothes,
go out,
like,
in the community,
you get
a little
bit of community access, and you can save up a little money. So when you get out, you've got some landing pad, right? It's really designed for people who've been down for a long time.
Okay.
It's a great program. Like, everybody should go, like, they should do more of it.
It makes sense because you're not just like thrown from there into, it's like it gives you a little bit of a transition. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, I'd been down 2 years, 2.5 years.
Well,
like,
right. But it's still not 2 days.
I mean, I was just like, hey, let me throw my hat in the ring, see if I can catch a break.
Yeah.
And so she was like, well, your application for long-term maintenance has been denied. And I was like, well, that's not surprising, Mrs. Johnson. And she's like, well, do you want another reason for the denial? And I was like, sure. She said, you've just been granted parole. I was like, I'm sorry, Miss Johnson, you got me mistaken for somebody else. Just a couple weeks ago, I was denied parole again. She spun the phone around, dialed the 1-800 number for parole board. She said, put in your number. So I put in my number, EF479295. And it said, parole status, parole granted, address approval pending. So for me, like, what was left for me to learn was 100% total acceptance of my situation.
Like surrendering it and like giving it to God.
Yep.
And he was like, all right.
And as soon as I accepted it, he let me go.
Wow. Did they say why? I'm sure you weren't trying to ask, like, what made you guys change your mind? Are you sure you made the right decision?
Can I interview? Let me run this by you again. No,
you told me you didn't want me. Are you sure that's
I have no idea.
Yeah. You don't just, it is what it is. You don't want to bring it up anymore.
Dude, and then
that's God,
and then God just started blessing me, man. Like, so I get out, and you know, I'm put on 90 days house arrest when you get out. So I got the ankle monitor on.
Yeah.
Right. And so I do that. And then my parole officer, man, she was amazing.
That's cool.
So cool. And just was like, you know, wow, you're taking a class at a community college. Like, you've got a job. Like, you've never missed a meeting. You've never failed a drug test. Like, you're killing it. So then, like, the thing is, I'd found a program at Texas Tech that was designed like as a second chance program for people that were in recovery.
Okay.
And I applied to that program while I was locked up. So I knew I was about to get out. So when I found out I was getting out, I started like trying to make plans.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
so here's the thing. I didn't meet any of the requirements to get into Texas Tech. I had like a 0.79 GPA when I failed out. So I got denied from Texas Tech, but this program had a scholarship program. And if you were awarded a scholarship, it overrode the Office of Admissions. Wow. And they gave me a scholarship, and I was allowed to come in on academic probation. And I graduated with a 3.89. No, I'm sorry. I'm shorting myself. I had a 3.96.
Wow.
And so, but here was the problem. Like I got accepted in this program. I had this scholarship, but like I couldn't legally leave the state.
Oh, man.
So my parole officer was like, I believe in you. And she wrote me a travel pass, and she put my travel pass to end after I was already out there.
Wow.
So she gave me like, she's
cool.
like, keep this in your wallet at all times.
Wow. You could have had just the wrong prick that could have screwed all that up.
But she believed in me. She believed in me trying to do something different. And then I got transferred after I got off of parole. Like, because I was only on parole for a little while, because that's just a little bit of my sentence left. So once I got off of parole, I had to start my probation. Well, then I had to meet with a different probation officer and go through this whole thing. Well, he started seeing what I was doing. He met with my parole officer. And what he ended up doing was he's like, I'm putting you on administrative status. He's like, Downs, what that means is here's your file. I'm putting it in that folder over there in that filing cabinet. And my hope is I never have to take it out. Just don't get in trouble. And I was like, I got you. Here's the thing. It was crazy. He ended up transferring jobs when I still had about 2 years left on my probation. And he took a job in South Carolina. He took my folder. This was 6 years into my probation. He took my folder over to my original sentencing judge and showed him, because I'd sent him an invitation to watch me graduate from college. I wasn't expecting him to come out to Texas.
Yeah.
I sent him a letter with my acceptance into graduate school. And he took all this stuff out there and showed my sentencing judge what my life had become. And my sentencing judge terminated my sentence on that day.
Wow.
I didn't even know it.
Whoa.
I had no clue. I didn't even know it until like a year or two later, when my date was coming up, and I called down just to say, hey, do I need to do anything? Like my probation's ending next month. And they were like, oh yeah, you're good. You've been off probation for 2 years.
Whoa.
I was like, y'all couldn't have sent me an email or something?
You couldn't have let me know?
Like a text message? Like something? Like, come on.
Dude, can you, we can even wrap up and do a part 2, but
Yeah,
can
absolutely.
you teach them about, there's all CEOs and everyone listening, business owners, help them for a couple minutes. I got to go pee really bad. Too much water and coffee.
No, I do too.
I need a toilet in here. Actually, listen, everyone. We will do a part 2, which Shadow is going to say goodbye too, because we're live streaming is why I'm going to stop this and not pause it. But this has been amazing. I am here about to pee my pants. It's so amazing. I've been holding it with my man, Adam Downs.
Yeah, I've slowed down on my water drinking because I need to go.
I need to do that more on these. And, we're talking about the CEO therapist. So we'll be back for another session. In the meantime, listen, everyone, never settle, never give up, and keep elevating beyond.